Let me, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just pause the recording. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Renu Rajani, welcoming you all on behalf of Women Who Code to Tech Leadership Talk on building a culture of innovation using design thinking. We have with us our esteemed speaker, Vindhya Umapathy. She's the design strategist and user researcher. Let me take a couple of minutes talk about Women Who Code and our activities before I hand it over to her. So Vindhya, if you can please move to the next slide.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Vindhya, slides are not moving.
I just moved it. It's not moving for you, is it? Oh, which slide is it
Maybe
on?
it's just on the beginning slide. And also if you can use PPT rather than PDF. So I don't know what are you using. Because
I'm using PDF. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just sorry. I don't know why it's not moving for you.
okay, so
I'll-
yeah, so this is good. Just keep watching that your slide is moving on your screen. So the Women Who Code, our mission is to inspire women to excel in technology careers. Next one. And our vision is to see a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and tech leaders. Next. We have a code of conduct which calls for an inclusive community, and a code of conduct which can be accessed on our Women Who Code website. It prohibits any kind of discrimination. Next one. Anyone can sign up to Women Who Code by going to womenwhocode.com and choosing Hyderabad as network. And you see Vindhya here in the current featured in the current talk. And we have a number of other programs also listed for upcoming days. This Saturday, we have a talk on computational biology. And on 30th, we are launching a return to work mentoring program. So you can see both of those programs on our meetup page. Please do sign up for that. Next, Vindhya.
Sorry. Yeah.
We want to create very strong impact by upskilling and cross-skilling, getting women back to work. And like I mentioned, that we are starting a RISE program, starting this September 30th launch. And we want to support and mentor women in early technology careers. And you can see one in that endeavor is the program with Vindhya. Next one. And our team defines our community. We focus on 3 key pillars: technology, innovation, and leadership. Next one. And various tracks, various technology tracks, tech talks, workshops, tutorials, trainings, live stream events, etc. And panels, fireside chats, lightning events. And you can see that events in around front end, mobile, Python, blockchain, cloud, data science are the key technologies that we are focusing as from point of view of bringing women back to work, as well as the key technology programs. Next one. And we just completed in June 2021, we completed a Global Connect Reimagine 2021. It was a global conference across the countries, and Women Who Code, as you know, is 300,000 plus size community worldwide with chapters in many countries. Let's move on. And as for India, we just concluded with VMware as a sponsor. We concluded Women Who Code Connect India 2021 on August 27th and September 3. This was a major event with 6,500 plus registrations for India. Next one. So like I said, as of today, we are more than 300,000 plus community, and we celebrate each one. And resources of Women Who Code can be accessed globally anywhere in the world. And in the pandemic and remote working, this has been a very sought after community. Next one, Vindhya. So today I introduce Vindhya Umapathy, known to me for some time. Vindhya is holds a degree from Toronto from an institute called Institute Beyond Without Boundaries, right?
Yes.
And she's also, she apart from being an architect and design strategist, she focuses her research on user research and design strategy. And she also has taught for corporation school in Chennai as part of Teach for India program. So person with varied interests. Let's hear her on her topic of specialization and passion. So Vindhya, I start out asking you a question. First of all, what is my concept of innovation? I thought innovation is in day-to-day life till I came across a role called Chief Innovation Officer. I used to work in Citibank in 2012, and there was a gentleman who was brought in as Chief Innovation Officer, and we used to campaign like top-down innovation, bottom-up innovation, and then each unit sent a person as a representative into the Innovation Council. So I was representing my unit into Innovation Council, looking at a lot of ground-up ideas and also some of the org initiatives that we were implementing across the organization. So that was my concept of innovation, and I didn't know it until then. So to you, what is innovation and how can workplaces promote a culture of innovation? So over to you. You can take control of the slides as well as your talk. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Renu, for first of all giving me this opportunity to be at Women Who Code, and also for my introduction. So, okay. So today, sorry, I've been having a little trouble with the moving of the slides. Okay, now it's moving. Okay. So, to tell you all first a little bit about myself before I move on into innovation. So, I started off as an architect. I studied architecture, and my expectation was that I'll follow a straight line path with my career. I'll go from being a junior architect to a chief architect, and I'll have my own firm. That's the line I thought I would be taking. And then life had other plans, and the reality is that it's more of a squiggle than it is about a straight line. So I went from being a junior architect into being a teacher. I did the Teach for India fellowship, so I taught elementary school kids in fourth and fifth grade for a while. That's where I got really interested in design thinking, and then I did my course in Toronto. So then I, got into service design, and then I got really interested in UX research. All of these things are actually very closely connected. So what I realized is that my path in my career is actually very similar to the process that it is going through the design experience. Going through any design creative process is usually not a straight line. It's more of a squiggle. So that's very much in line with how my career has been so far. So today our main focus would be around how we can inspire and fuel creative thinking, and how to identify and engage with the skills and mindsets of different types of people in any team. And I'll also give you all an introduction to design thinking. And if we have time, we'll definitely do a fun activity. And yeah, so let's get started on this. As Renu said, she was talking about innovation and how it's so important. So innovation is the single most important ingredient to any modern economy. So this is something that we have all seen time and again, and especially now with the pandemic, because we are constantly seeing everything change, and every industry is adapting, and whoever is able to innovate fast and innovate quickly and have that roll out fast, they're the ones who are emerging to be strong in the face of change. So this is something I think that all of us already have proof about how important innovation is right now. So we speak about innovation so much, but what is innovation? So let's explore that a little bit. So in the business world, creativity manifests itself as innovation. So at the heart of innovation is just creativity. It's just people behind innovation. It's all the people, it's all the ideas, it's everything just coming together, and that's what creates innovation. So, according to a study by the Adobe Systems, one 25 only 25% of individuals feel that they are living up to their creative potential. So that just means that the majority, that is 75% of people, don't feel like they are living up to their creative potential in their personal lives or at work. So if we are going to look at how might we unleash the creative potential of everyone, and then once everyone's creative potential is unleashed, then there's no stopping where any organization can go, where the kind of things that people can achieve together would be unstoppable if everybody's creative potential, everyone was living up to their creative potential. So now that we're like talking about creative potential and creativity, so let's kind of dig into the word creativity. So what comes to your mind when I say creativity? You can put it in the chat, or you could just think about it. I'll give you all a few seconds. So what comes to your mind when you say creativity? Well, okay, so can't really get into that right now, but I'll check it out in a bit. I'll check out the chat in a little while. So one second. To a lot of people, creativity is only for the artsy types. When they think creative, when they think about creativity, they're thinking about maybe like somebody who has a talent with music or with art or with creating something like food, something physical. So these are the aspects that usually come to people's minds. Although now creativity is starting to become a more commonplace word in any kind of workplace. People would otherwise, earlier on, people would say, hey, I'm more analytical more than creative. I'm more of a thinking person. Oh, I'm not too creative. So that's a label that they've already put onto themselves. But the truth is, if you're going to look at who is creative, the truth is that everybody is creative. So if you walk into a kindergarten classroom and if you just say, who's an artist here? You'll have like double hands go up. All the kids would be like jumping and they would all have their hands up and they'd say, I'm an artist, I'm an artist. But as you go to say sixth grade, you'll see a huge change in how kids react. And if you ask them, who's an artist here? Who's creative here? Then you may have a couple of students raise their hands and kind of look around wondering, is it okay for me to answer that I'm creative, or is it awkward? So that's the kind of change that happens just in a matter of say about 5-6 years. Kids go through so much of a change. And like, why does that happen? Why do kids stop thinking of themselves as being creative? And slowly, as we go into adulthood, like, this feeling may grow and grow and grow if we don't, hone our creativity and are encouraged in an environment that really celebrates creativity. So as we're like talking about creativity and creative thinking, so what is creative thinking? So creative thinking is simply means that using your imagination to create something new. So it could be absolutely anything. It could be anything even small. You could be creative if you just make say rasam in a slightly different way. As you're cooking, you just make something slightly different, and that's being creative. You're mixing two different cuisines. That's being creative. You're finding a new way to like have your phone in like a charging point where you don't have any place to keep it. That's being creative. So absolutely any small act, even how you arrange your bedside table, can be a creative activity. So we are creative in so many small things that we do on a daily basis. So, and it is a muscle that you can train and you can use to find innovative solutions to problem solving. So we are constantly problem solving every day, and the way we go about problem solving is by being creative. So as we're like thinking about creativity, and we think about ideas, and so if we're going to look at where ideas come from, so ideas are usually the confluence of thought. So you get usually, this is something that I heard in a masterclass that I saw, which was really beautiful. Neil Gaiman spoke about how you get ideas from two things coming together. You get ideas from things that you haven't seen, that you have seen and thought and know about, and then something else that you've seen and thought and know about, and the realization that you can just collide those two things. So, say for example, even if you take Harry Potter, you've got everybody understands and knows the idea of what a school is, and you also know and understand the idea of what magic is. So when you collide the two, that's a place, that's now you've got a school where they teach you magic. And that's an idea, and that's built on further and further, and that's how you've got Harry Potter, and that's how J.K. Rowling went about it, with so many tiny things throughout the book. If you try to analyze how she got the idea for every tiny thing, you could possibly see what are the different things that she's colliding to get this idea. So, okay, here's another very quick activity. So I've put out 4 things. 1 is an exercise bike, 2 is an instant soup mix, 3 is a contact lens, and 4 is a baby seat. So could you just put down in the chat if you see anything that's similar among all these 4 things that I've put out here? Just anything that comes to your mind. And Renu, could you read out the chat and what people are saying about what is common between these 4 things?
So they're talking about all require hand and eye coordination.
Okay, all require hand and eye. That's true. Okay, that's good.
Anybody
Okay.
else? Yeah, safety.
Safety. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So, although
Somebody
those
else says all are quicker ways to do things that otherwise take time.
yeah, that's also interesting. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are actually a lot of things that are in common if you really look for it. One of the reasons that I put this out here is because all of these things have had something subtracted from them. The exercise bike has had the back wheel subtracted, the instant soup mix has had water subtracted, and you just have the powder. The contact lens has the frame subtracted from glasses, and now they've created contact lens. And the baby seat has had the legs of the chair subtracted, so you can just fix the baby seat maybe in a car or maybe somewhere else. So the idea of subtraction to also create innovative ideas is what I wanted to talk about in this slide when we're looking at confluence of thought. So here's an example of addition. So here we've got shoes which have wheels that pop out, and you can skate with these. And when you don't want to skate, you can just push the wheels back in and use them as shoes. So here's an example of addition. So all of these things we see quite often in if you look at any startup, any app, you can see how things are being added. So Swiggy, for example, went from being a company that's just into food delivery, and now they're into they have the everything that they need to. They have delivery people, they've got an app, they've got everything, and now they can deliver anything. It doesn't just have to be food. They have Swiggy Genie, they've got you've got Instamart to deliver groceries. You can have Swiggy can be used as Dunzo too. So that is adding on to what you already have. So, okay, so here's an example of division. So here's a cake, and you've got cupcakes. So the cupcake retains all the properties of a cake, but it's just smaller. And it's easier because it's easier to hold. It's the right portion that you want to eat. So cupcakes became a big hit. And I was just thinking of a parallel this morning when I saw a truck that just comes and parks in my apartment, and then we get our groceries. So we've got Spar supermarket in Mantri Mall, and it's really huge. And they send out a truck with all of the essentials. So in one way, that's a lot like the cake and the cupcake, and we all get access to the cupcake, which is what we need, our daily groceries, our daily vegetables. So this is something that we also see in our everyday lives, and this is one other way to innovate. So as we're thinking about innovation and how we come up with ideas, here's the 2 modes of thinking. This is something that Barbara Oakley came up with. There is the focus mode, and then you have the diffuse mode. So all of us kind of bounce between these 2 modes, and for a good amount of time we are in the focus mode, especially if, say, we're solving a math problem. If I say what is 235 times 12, then you're just getting into the focus mode. All you have in your mind is the numbers, and you're doing the calculation. And it's the same whether you're focused on any activity. Say you're writing something, or you're focused on coding, or whatever your work is. Sometimes you just get straight into the focus mode, and you're only thinking about that. And then you have the diffuse mode. The diffuse mode is when your mind bounces between many different ideas that probably don't seem to be related. and these things just combine. So the diffuse mode is when you're walking around and then you have analogies about, say, life and the weather and things like that, right? So just like connecting two different ideas. And the thing with the diffuse mode of thinking is you can get into the diffuse mode of thinking when you are more relaxed. So it usually happens when you are in the shower, or when you're going for a jog, or doing like some mundane activity which relaxes you and allows your mind to go away from the focus mode and get more relaxed and bounce between ideas. So here's a quick activity again for all of you. I want you all to come up with 20 uses of a chair. So I'll give you all a minute. Just again in the chat box, please just write down, apart from sitting, apart from the usual use of a chair, what are all the things that you could possibly do with a chair? Just like think of absolutely anything that you could do. Not, don't just think about using a chair in a traditional sense. So any ideas you get, just put it down in the chat, and I will request Renu to read them out for me.
So somebody uses a chair for a ladder or stool, cloth hanger, table to eat, use it for firewood, stand on it to reach out to the fan to clean it, tie my shoelaces,
Okay.
stand to reach something, use it as a stand to hold something, uh, use chair for defense, use it for cloth horse, and use it for storage,
Okay.
use it for workout, use it to get to objects placed at higher level, use it for yoga, use it for yoga prop, use it
Okay.
as a stool, use it for exercise,
Okay.
use it to keep folded clothes, use it as prop for dance, musical chairs game, use it as
Wow.
toy car to play with my niece,
Uh-huh.
you do musical chairs, keep
Uh-huh.
plants.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, so you got more than 20.
Amazing. Amazing. That's amazing. So I think
And
we got a very creative bunch.
make it tent for kids play.
Amazing. So I think we've got such a creative group right here. I think all the participants seem to be super creative. Those are amazing ideas that everyone came up with, and you all came up with it super fast. So it is true, we can use a chair in multiple ways, and you all just collided different ideas. Just now here you have an example of how you all collided so many different ideas and put that onto a chair. So here's like a real-time example of how this happens. Now that we have all of these ideas, the thing that really makes something creative into whether you can create an innovation out of it is that, is it something that people want, is it something that people desire, is it something that can be a business idea, is it viable, and also is it feasible, do you have the technical ability to make it happen. So if you have these three things, you can go ahead and innovate and make things happen. So here's just a quick Venn diagram of making this happen. Okay. So innovation is a tool for transforming the entire culture of an organization. Just getting everyone to get more innovative, it can completely transform how people work together, what they come up with, and how the organization functions altogether.
So that brings me to a topic when we're talking innovation and we want more innovation. But as we saw in the last experiment you just did, that innovation is all about creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with all this matrix culture and work targets, how do you still promote creativity at work?
Yeah. Okay. So just getting on to that. So now we looked at how creativity just happens overall. And if we're going to look at creativity at work, innovation and creativity is better as a team sport. I'm sure as all of you started putting it up on the chat on the side, you started getting more ideas as you saw other people's ideas also. So when you bounce off ideas off each other, it just like brings in this amazing energy, and creativity just like blossoms in such an environment. So how do we build a culture of innovation is a very important thing at a workplace. So the values of any creative team is, these are some of the things that I've put down. So one is having a very diverse team, having people of all genders, of all ages, of of different races, and also different backgrounds. You could have people of different fields. Everybody kind of come together. That adds so much value to any team if you're trying to brainstorm on any ideas. So having horizontal collaboration, which is non-hierarchical, which is where people just feel completely comfortable being at the same table together. So again, here's another example that I just recently saw. I ordered something from Zomato just yesterday. After a really long time, I don't usually order on Zomato. So one of the features I saw is that you can actually leave a voice note for the delivery person about where your house is. So I'm sure that that's a feature that's gotten added after people have complained about, hey, I'm not able to find the house, I'm not able to read the detailed instructions of the landmark, and all these things, and maybe there's the side gully, and then you enter this way. People may not know all that, but if you leave a voice note, it's so much easier to understand. So you could have gotten all of this information if you had the delivery personnel, if you had the product team, if you had the marketing team, the management, the UX team, everybody sitting at the same table and discussing different ideas. You get so much more from it. So having horizontal collaboration is so important, and a safe environment to share ideas and to build on those of others. So feeling safe is feeling that your voice matters, that you can speak, and if you're in an environment where one person's voice is not overpowering everybody else's, that is a safe environment to be. And along with that comes a culture of fearlessness and an ability to embrace failure. Many organizations these days are making like helping people laugh about failure. So being able to laugh about failure and take it lightly is such an important quality, because it just takes off that fear around failure, that it shouldn't be spoken about. So I've heard about like people having these mess up nights. So it's almost like stand up comedy, where you come and you talk about all the different ways you messed up, and with your work, and what you learned from it, and everybody laughs and everybody learns, and that just creates an environment where everyone's feeling so free about failure, and they're okay to try something and to fail. So anytime we try to play any game, we're really open to failing and learning and all of that. So bringing just that kind of energy into the kind of work that we do can really help make innovation much easier. Listening deeply is also another very important quality, because very often we listen to respond rather than listen to understand. And another survey suggests that we absorb only 25% of what we listen to. So listening deeply is a very important skill. And appreciating others often is also really, really important. This is also something that I learned during my time as a teacher. I just saw the complete difference in students' behavior. Once they're appreciated, often they want to do things more and more and more. The team gets closer, everyone feels valued, everyone feels seen. So having these kind of values in your team will really promote creativity. So and build creative confidence. So the idea of creative confidence is you have the natural human ability of creative thinking, and you add that to the courage to act. That is, if you're in a non-judgmental environment where you feel completely comfortable to act on your ideas, you build creative confidence. It could be with very small ideas, and as it goes, people get more and more confident to just express their ideas. Okay, so this is another phrase that you may have heard quite often. I know I've heard it before. So that is, people may say, let me just play devil's advocate for a minute. And when they're doing that, the reason they're doing that is they hear your idea and they see all the loopholes in your idea. Maybe they feel like, okay, I can see that this may not work because of this. How are you going to handle this? What are you going to do if What about that other idea that's kind of similar to yours? How are you going to differentiate yourself, and all of these things? So people take on this, this by saying I'm the devil's advocate. They're saying that, hey, I'm not saying this, the devil's making me say it, and show you this. But the truth is, an idea is a lot like a baby, because when you have an idea, it's not fully formed, it doesn't have a shield to guard itself against all these different comments. So an idea needs to be nurtured, it needs to be added to, it needs to be cared for. So playing the devil's advocate when an idea comes up usually is the number one killer of innovation. So a lot of tiny baby ideas have been killed in their baby stages, simply due to these words and simply due to, over questioning an idea. So instead of that, the best way to take an idea forward is to use yes and. So you hear an idea and then you go yes and then you try to add on to see how you can strengthen the idea rather than how you can bring down the idea. So this concept of yes and has been taken from improv. So in improv, people usually, stand with each other and they're trying to create a story by just saying yes and. Like for example, somebody says, "Oh, the sky is so beautiful. I can see all the stars," and somebody else says, "Yes, and I can also see the earth, just beautiful blue, and it's so great that we're standing on the moon." So that totally gives you a totally different perspective of what's there. And then somebody else says yes and the story keeps building. So that's different from if someone instead said no but. Okay, so the sky, no but it's daytime, how can you see the stars? And then the story just immediately falls. So adopting this mindset of using yes and strengthening ideas at their early nascent stages can really take an idea forward and can build on that. So that's another really important thing. So now I'm going to take you through the 10 phases of innovation. This is the book that I've read. It's by Tom Kelly. So as we go through the next bunch of slides, I would like you to ask yourself, who am I? That is, what role do I naturally play in a team? Who might I become? And who might I work with? So as we're going through these slides, please think of that. I will very quickly go through these slides with some few short stories, but yeah, keep these questions in mind. Okay, so this slide has toothbrushes, two different types of toothbrushes. So as a kid in the 90s, I have seen these tiny toothbrushes for kids with, which just look like adult toothbrushes, but smaller. And IDEO had come up with, IDEO had to redesign the kids' toothbrush. This was a job given to them by Oral-B. And what they did is they went into the field and they started observing kids and how they brush their teeth. And this seems like such an obvious thing. It's an everyday thing that we all see all the time, brushing our teeth, and we all do it ourselves. So you may think like, what's the big deal in observing brushing your teeth? But there's a huge, what they observed and what they noticed was that kids were just using the brush and they were almost punching themselves. They were like going like that, and they were not able to gently brush their teeth and hold the brush easily. So that's when they realized that kids don't have the dexterity to handle a thin toothbrush, and they decided that what kids really need is a fatter toothbrush that they can easily hold and have control over. And that's how the fatter toothbrush was made. And the reason I told you this story is because I want to tell you about a concept called Wuja Day. So Wuja Day is a lot like deja vu, but the opposite. So deja vu is seeing something that has happened before, and you have that feeling that you're seeing it again. But Wuja Day is seeing something that you see all the time, like you're seeing it for the first time. So that's Wuja Day. So applying that quality of being an anthropologist and seeing everyday objects and everyday activities like you're seeing them for the first time with new eyes can form such a great quality in really identifying what are the gaps, what are things that can be changed, and what are things that can be fixed. So this is one of the first, I think it's the first mouse that was designed for Apple. So this is because I just wanted to talk about the evolution of, not having a mouse to having a mouse to a mouse changing its form. Now we have mouses that are almost like, vertical. And now we even have a touchpad, and even beyond a touchpad is a touch screen. And yeah, so this is how much we progressed with this. So this is the role of an experimenter. An experimenter is constantly, trying to make anything better and better and better, and coming up with new ways of changing things. So as Einstein said, I've not failed, I've merely found 10,000 ways that don't work. So here is architecture that's inspired from elements of nature. So the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to tell you about the cross-pollinator. A cross-pollinator is somebody who takes, seemingly different ideas and collides them, and kind of sees how things can happen. So you may find cross-pollination happening across industries, gaming coming into, healthcare, and all kinds of things. So you have cross pollination happening everywhere, and it's a great way to merge ideas and to grow innovation. So yeah, so these are the learning personas. So being an anthropologist, being an experimenter, and being a cross pollinator. So I'm going to go on to more personas. So here's, I don't know if you've heard about this story. This is an epic moment in the Olympics. It's called the Flossberry flop. So this is when high jump changed forever. So usually everybody was looking at high jump in the regular way, going forward and then jumping over the bar. But this guy from the US decided to do it completely differently, and he literally raised the bar for everybody else. So he just has a goal, and he's just going to do it no matter what, and somehow try to make it happen. So he's just like going over and trying to make it happen in any way. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I want to talk to you about the hurdler. The hurdler is someone who just has the final goal in mind, and they just want it to work really well, and they will do anything to make it happen. So coming up with all kinds of ways to just make it happen is what the hurdler does, and that's the role of the hurdler. And here is someone passing the baton. We see how important that moment is. There's a moment of trust. There's a moment of letting go and letting another person take on after you. So this is the role of a collaborator. A collaborator is constantly there. You can completely rely on a collaborator. They collaborate really well with others, and they just make things happen. And it's just basically trust that forms the foundation of collaboration. And yeah, of course, it's because of collaboration that we have all prevailed as a species, in fact. So being a collaborator is also really important. And here we have this is in the middle of some kind of play. I just saw this image and I just thought of this, putting it here. So she's right in the spotlight and in midair, and everyone's watching her. So I thought this was the perfect image to choose for the director's role. A director, sees everybody and their strengths in the team, and knows when to cast who to shine. So choosing the right people in the team, and having them shine with their strengths, and being able to get them to collaborate and direct that, that's another amazing role that that's important to have in a team. So these are the organizing personas. So you have the hurdler, you have the collaborator, and you have the director. Next, so here is Green Humor. I follow them on Instagram, and I think his comics are usually pretty funny, and they always tell a bigger story. So here's a small little picture that just says, "Hey, switch to public transport. You're saving on energy," and it's just funny. So the storyteller also forms such an important role, because there's so much that you can convey through a story that you cannot convey through technically talking about the different elements. That's why we tell kids stories. That's why we speak in stories, because that has so much more impact. And you can take away value, you can take away amazing concepts, you can take away analogies, and you can take away so much more through stories. So stories are powerful, and being able to communicate your story as an organization or whatever you're doing, constantly sharing stories is also really important. We have so many tools, we have social media, we have stories on Instagram, we have stories everywhere. So sharing small stories are a great source of, first of all, keeping track and also inspiring others. So this is the Olympics 2020, 2021. So the idea of this is the set designer. One thing that we often underestimate is the power of space. So as an architect, I've also seen this at play. The way a space is designed can completely change how people behave in that space. Say, for example, if a college is designed without too many spaces to interact or too many corridors, then just the way students interact with each other, just the way the culture of the college can be completely formed by that space itself. And this is why IIM Bangalore is designed with the corridors as the central theme. The central theme is having people come and collaborate, and spaces for people to just hang out and meet each other. So a set designer is someone who creates the right type of environment for people to collaborate. So now we have places like the innovation lab. You have so many different new spaces in firms. Even the way we work has changed. We're moving towards, now we're all working from home, but like earlier we've moved towards a more open environment. So all of that has a huge impact on how we all work. So this, I'm not sure if any of you have seen the video of this. So this is how the Turkish ice cream seller, when they're selling ice cream, they just don't give it to you directly. They start playing with you. So they just turn and twist and do a whole bunch of things. So there's a kid waiting to get his ice cream, his or her ice cream. And then this guy is like, okay, here, have it. And then I'm going to take it back. And then I'm going to play with it. And I'm going to do a bunch of things. And I'm going to give it to your hands. When you almost have it, I'm going to take it back. So it's like a really fun video to watch, and it's gone viral too, and it's become a famous thing that is now being done even in India. So the idea of this is that the experience, it's not even the ice cream, it's the experience of even getting the ice cream that makes like such a huge difference to anybody who's buying it. So the experience architect is someone who can completely think of what the experience, it could be the digital experience, it could be a physical experience, it could be what somebody goes through. These roles are usually held by the user interface team or the user experience team that really thinks through the experience of any innovation. And finally, we have caregiving. So the caregiver is someone who's extremely empathetic and thinking deeply about everyone, and especially the user. Say, constantly thinking of, okay, what would somebody need at this point? How would somebody feel? Would they be tired? Will they need some will they need to feel comfortable? All of these tiny things that make such a huge difference to how a service or a product is designed, is also another really important role. So these are the building personas, and with this we are almost done with all the personas. So think through again, who am I, what might I become? Because we may not only be one of these personas. I may be more of an anthropologist and a caregiver and a storyteller, and maybe these are my strengths. And the people who I need to collaborate with could be, I need to collaborate more with hurdlers and experimenters to make my idea come to life. So like when you have different people in a team, it's easier to collaborate when you know your strengths and the strengths of others in your team. So more collaborative prompts would be, let me be an anthropologist for a moment, or let's think like an experimenter, and we could prototype this idea in a week and see if we can make something good happen out of it. Or who wants to be a hurdler and see how we can make
So
this happen? So
Vindhya, I was
yeah.
just going through these all various personas and all,
Mhm.
and having been through this design thinking, course in Infosys and others,
Mhm.
is this what you play as design thinking process, or what is design thinking then?
Okay, so good question. So coming to design thinking, what is design thinking? Everything that I took you all through all this time, That is, we looked at what is creativity, we looked at creativity in teams, and we're looking at different roles that people play in teams. All of these things come together and form design thinking altogether. That's what I'll be talking to you all about right now. So, design thinking is the process of solving problems by prioritizing the end user's needs above everything else, and it's about coming up with ideas and testing them out constantly. So, I'll explain design thinking with something called the double diamond diagram. So, okay, first, like we go through all these 5 stages, and I'll explain that over the double diagram, double diamond. So, the double diamond is a really popular design process. You know not a tool, but more of a description of how the design process happens. So the first diamond is about figuring out if you are designing the right thing. I can tell you about this whole process through an example. So when I was a teacher with Teach for India, I was teaching kids in a low income school, and there were a lot of problems. And one of the big things that we had to figure out is what is hindering students from having an excellent education. So as we tried exploring the problem, we looked at, okay, could it be teachers, could it be classroom spaces, could it be their home environment where they're coming from, could it be other factors overall. So we just like take the problem and start exploring what is everything that could be a possibility. So as we're doing this, we're going from the beginning of the diamond, we are exploring everything, and then we narrow it down as we do a little more research and figure out what is the core problem. So when we figured out the core problem, say for example, it was they were not eating nutritious breakfast at home. Many kids wouldn't even eat breakfast, so they would just come to school and they're already tired, so they weren't able to pay attention. And that was one of the reasons that they weren't able to be their best selves in school. So now we've gone through the first diamond and we've defined the problem. So are we designing the right thing? We're designing for this problem. So now we're going into the second diamond, which is designing things right. Now that we know that, hey, the kids really need nutrition, what are the different ways that we can make sure that kids can be fed well? So as we explore the second diamond, you go through, okay, we need to have parent teacher meetings, we need a nutritionist on board, what is cheap and healthy and easy to make, what is all of these things. So you come up with all these ideas of how you can make this how you can solve this problem, and then you narrow down, and then you say, okay, the best way to go about this is to have these easy to make meals, and also talk to the parents about it. So going through these two diamonds is the way that we go through the whole design thinking process, because in the beginning we are going through the phase of research to understand what is the problem that we're trying to solve, is this the right problem that we're trying to solve, and in the middle we have defined the problem. Once we've got it, we've focused all our energy on this is the thing that we want to solve. There may be other problems, but you kind of scope out what you want to do, and then again you explore, and then again you come back in and zero down on what you're designing. Like you explore what all could be the possible solutions, and you zero down on a solution. So as you go through this process, you are taking on the role of a researcher, of an experimenter, of a hurdler, and of all the other roles, and you become a storyteller by the end of it, because you've gone through this whole process and you have a story to tell others about how this happened. So that's how you go through the design thinking process itself. And an easier way to simplify it would be to say feel, think, and do. This is an easier way to just go about this. So with feel, that is, you go through the phases of empathize, you go through Wuja day that we looked at, that is looking with fresh eyes. You observe, be a fly on the wall, just, people watch, and see how people are behaving with your product or with your service, and or with your experience. And you talk to people, what delights them, what bothers them. People are constantly talking about that. They're always saying, oh, this was so difficult, or oh, I love this. So that's something that people love talking about all the time. But if you just like listen more carefully, you'll understand where are the pain points, and asking why questions. Why do people feel this way? What is making people feel this way? So this is going through the feel phase. That's the initial early phases of design thinking. And then you go through the think phase, which is where you go for quantity over quality, and you brainstorm. This is what we saw with the chair exercise, where all of you just came up with so many ideas. You're not thinking about, is this a quality thing to do with the chair? You're just coming up with so many ideas, right? Like, so no idea, you don't realize which idea is actually going to take wings and fly. Even if it sounds crazy, just go quantity over quality when you're brainstorming. And reimagine. So reimagine how a certain thing could be, completely reframe what would the ideal most positive outcome look like, completely like flip it and see what that would look like. And then you go into the do phase, where you're going to be messy, because you want to make like very quick, cheap, easy and fast doable prototypes of whatever you're making. Because if you spend too much time, too much energy to make a perfect prototype, and then you realize it's the completely wrong thing, then there's so much of time and energy and money that you would have wasted on it. So just like do it quickly, whatever you need to do to get it out and to test it out and to learn fast and fail fast. That's the thing behind do. So you could do that with products. You can make models, and with services and experience, you can bring them alive as storyboards. You could act it out. You could get a bunch of people to see how this whole thing would work out, and test it out. So here's the activity which I think everyone can actually do at home, because this activity itself will take some time, and I think we'll be running out of time soon. So the activity is gift giving. Think of somebody whose birthday is coming up, who you want to gift something for, and take and go through the entire design process. Do your research on them, and see what they like, and prototype, and see how you can, get the perfect gift for them by going through the entire process. Don't just do it only for the gift. Think of the experience of giving the gift, and also think of how you're going to package that gift. So are you going to surprise them? Are you going to say, just have them discover it lying in the house somewhere? Or are you going to do something else, have it mysteriously appear somewhere, or get them out somewhere? So is it a service, or I mean, is it an experience, is it a product? Just like go through the entire different phases of the design thinking process. First, understand your subject really well, and then by prototyping, that could be like testing and asking them slyly if this is something that they would be interested in, and then finally doing this. So think of it in terms of an experience or a product or a gift, physical gift, and also think of how you want to package it. And think of there are so many interesting ways that people could do all of this. So this is an interesting activity that you could take your time and do this. So the real act of discovery consists not in finding new lands, but in seeing with new eyes. So this is a quote that I really feel captures the process of what first sparks innovation. So that's why I thought, let me end with this. And so I'll be very happy to connect with any of you. Please do connect with me on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn. These are my IDs, and I've got my website. It's vindhyaumpathy.com. If you want to check that out and collaborate on anything, I'm happy to help anyone with their work. I'm happy to. I also do a bunch of say design sprints over a week or over a day. I could do workshops for your teams on thinking innovatively, or taking you through like the design thinking process. We can figure anything out. So if you're interested in this, please do reach out to me. And
So that's great.
I didn't get that.
oops.
Could you try again?
Okay, Siri got activated, and I don't know how.
Hey,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
Vindhya, I really like that. Now I'll just spend 2 minutes to 5 minutes on personal side. All this design thinking, innovation, and you started out with your things that you learned in your corporate school and all that. How has this design thinking played a role so far in your life and career?
Okay.
How has it shaped?
Yeah, I think one thing that we don't realize is that it plays such a important role even in our personal life. All of us are actually doing this unconsciously. Even say with our health, right? Like if we're going to look at our health, and if something's wrong, we start researching why something's wrong. We're like, oh, okay, did I if we're having an upset stomach, we're wondering, am I allergic to some food that I ate? Am I am I getting gassy? Is this causing something? Is this particular thing causing something? And then we do some research and try to figure that out, and then we try to go through this whole process of trying to figure so many things out. This happens quite often even with relationships. When you're with any of your relationships, you may find that there are certain conflicts or certain things that keep popping up, and then you can figure out what is the root of the problem. So a lot of it has to first do with identifying what's the root cause, and figuring out what's the real problem that we're trying to solve. So this is something that I keep thinking of in any relationship that I have with anyone. I think of this anytime there's conflict. I think of this in terms of even like trying to see what would work. And in terms of even health, I know even psychologists are actually doing design thinking when they work with patients. They are like trying to see the root of any problem, and they're trying to see how what would work, and prototype different types of solutions. So there's physical activity, and then there's like medication. There's all these different things that contribute to our overall health. So I think it is something that plays a major role in all our lives. All of us are applying this in some way, but we just don't realize how.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Vindhya. And you may flip through next few slides for information. And I have my co-director, Saraswati Narayan, here. And I request all of you to also look at two upcoming programs in our meetup page. We have this Saturday program by Devishi on computational biology. And then on 30th September, we are launching the Return to Work program for women who have taken a break, the program under the name RISE, Reboot, Invest, Skill, and Empower. So Saraswati, do you want to take a few minutes, talk about it, and also moderate any questions that audience may have?
Sure, Renu. Vindhya, thank you so much. This was such a lovely session. I mean, personally, I just want to share, today was a very hectic day for me, and I had such a bad headache, and I just went into this saying, this is something that I have to attend as a Women Who Code director, nothing more than that, right? But then it was such a stress buster for me, and the way you have spoken about innovation and creating a culture, I mean, I'm just speechless. So thank you so much for this session.
Is the headache gone or no?
It has gone. So sometimes it's just about how you're wired in the day, right? And then you're just looking at the same thing, doing the same stuff perhaps. But this was really, really so refreshing. And thank you so much, Vindhya. Thank you for the session. In fact, I don't have any questions for now. I'm just so happy that, we all are here today, and we are able to understand those many facets of innovation, breaking some of those myths, and then really looking at something objectively, right? And I really like that concept about yes and instead of saying no but, right? So very, very powerful positive thinking there, which helps all of us. So team, I think this is a lovely forum to ask any questions. Please do share any questions or any comments that you might have to.
You could either put it in the chat, or you could even raise your hand, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And Saraswati, thank you for your kind words. And I'm so glad you even made it for the session, even when you were not well. Thank you.
My pleasure, Vindhya. I'm just
we can
trying
take
to look at the chat. I think there are a lot of positive comments, Vindhya. Excellent session. Great session. Thanks for a great session. I don't see any questions so far. Thanks, Vindhya, for informative session. So overall, I think a lot of positive comments over there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, a lot of even I'm just looking at this.
Okay.
Everybody.
So Vindhya, I will maybe people are hesitating, so let me ask very dumb question. Being in IT for so many years, and there is so much need for in innovation and design thinking on one hand, but there is so much of reluctance because there are established ways of working. While we do so much of agile and DevOps and all that to bring in innovation and bring creative energies of everyone working together in software process. So I was asking you earlier a question that how organizations should make the employees more creative. But this is a bit more specific. How do you inculcate design thinking and innovation specifically in the software design process? Is it different, or is it all the ideas you talked about are equally applicable? Any suggestions?
I would think that possibly all my ideas are equally applicable for any team that's working together. It's just the overall culture, even if it's a software team, even if people are a little far removed from the innovation process itself, how they collaborate with each other and even solve problems together. That has a lot to do with building that same culture of innovation and going through this process. So I would say that it's pretty much the same. And it's something that can be adapted not only to software but to any profession or any different field. There's a way to adapt design thinking to help people innovate and to collaborate better. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Vindhya, I had a question. Will there be a difference in the design process between a product versus a service? Are there like specific nuances that we would need to take care as a service company versus a product company?
Yes, definitely. Although the process itself is pretty similar, the difference between a product company and a service company mainly comes when it's time to prototype and when it's time to really test out how something would work. So when you're a service company, you're looking more at journey mapping and seeing how the service would run from the beginning till the end, taking a consumer through your entire service. So that would be more about like understanding the emotions that somebody would go through as they go through your entire service, the areas where they may need any kind of support, being inclusive in that aspect. So the kind of tools that you may use at that point are journey mapping and storyboarding and taking someone through that service, just like experimenting through actually going through that service and seeing how you feel. But when you're dealing with a product, you are dealing with how somebody would use that product to solve their problem. So the kind of tools that you would use during your prototype phase would change at that time. You would test the product out with people. You would see how people are reacting to it, how the product needs to change. If there's physical products as well as digital products, right? Physical products, at least you can bring in front of somebody and keep it and have them touch and feel and play with it and tell you their feedback. But a digital product is again almost like a service. So again, it's about seeing what are the, like, it's mainly about how do you experiment, how do you find where the gaps are, and how you do these things. I think that's mainly where the difference lies. But in other ways, I think it's pretty similar, the entire process.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Happy to answer.
I saw some in chat.
Oh, okay. Is it?
How
okay.
does one inculcate design thinking within a team of product managers, developers, stakeholders, especially when one needs to collaborate with these varied set of people for a particular product launch?
Yeah. Okay. So actually already having product managers, developers, stakeholders at the table, you already have a great start to collaborating. So I would say that when you have a varied set for a particular product launch, you're looking at it's more about the facilitation of this session and how that's going to go about. Because if there's nobody really facilitating how this session goes about, what is the thing that you're all brainstorming, how you're brainstorming, how you're, say for example, clustering similar ideas and coming up with solutions, if nobody's guiding that process, it can get pretty chaotic with different people, kind of talking about different things, and you're not really going anywhere with it. So that area, I think it would be more around how you go about collaborating than you already have all the right people on the table. It's about how you make it, how you go through the process together. So yeah, that's where facilitation, I think, would make a big difference.
Hey, Vidya, there was one more, a quick question. When we think creativity, we bombarded with ideas, it's time taking. Any suggestions what the best way to narrow down to effectively manage and further execute it effectively?
Okay, so say so there are a lot of ideas, and say it's time taking. Let's take the example of the chair exercise that we did earlier. So there were more than 20 answers, right? So there were answers which had to do with, if say we go say we try to cluster these ideas together, and then we look at common themes that are emerging. So one of the common themes that I saw emerging were, say for example, function. So one is using the chair as a functional element of, using it to climb to a higher height, like a ladder, or using it to store something, and all of those things were go into the function bucket. And then you can have another bucket that you could say fun, that you could call fun. So you could say fun and activity. So with that, you could put in play, using it as a tent, exercise, doing this, doing that. So those are all activities and fun things. And you could have different buckets, and you could club different ideas together into different buckets and see what are the emerging themes that are coming. And once you know what the emerging themes are, then you could kind of look at, hey, these are the things that maybe need some attention. So when you have a lot of ideas, the best thing to do is to club them, to kind of put them into buckets, and then see what could possibly merge with other ideas that are standing out alone, and other ideas that could be merged and that could be used. So just looking at it that way, that narrows down these ideas. Sometimes we do this thing called 100 questions. So we ask 100 questions, and we have like overwhelming number of post-its. So what we do is we just kind of cluster them, and then we come in, and then we finally end up with like 3 themes. So going through that process would help. Yeah.
Hey, Vindhya, I think we'll wrap up soon. Just one more question has come in. I wanted to add, how would organizations adopt design thinking in the process not punish a bad idea?
How would organizations adopt design thinking
and not punish a bad idea?
And not punish a bad idea.
Okay.
So I'm wondering what punish a bad idea means. So if you mean by punish a bad idea, okay, one is ideas are ideas and they are not people. So being a little disassociated with your idea is also a very important thing when you're at the table, when you're brainstorming, because you can come up with an idea. Say you come up with an idea, it's exactly like yes and the idea gets built on, and different people do different things with the idea, and the idea might be completely different by the end of it. Or you have an idea, and that idea is not really taken forward because maybe some other idea is being looked at right now, or something else is getting merged. So it's just part of the creative process that you are looking at ideas over people behind ideas. When you get hurt mainly when you attach yourself to the idea, and if you think, oh, my idea didn't get chosen, but actually the reason that you're all together is so that you can all come up with a solution for a problem together. So just, I think the core of this question would be to disassociate yourself with the idea being, you. So
hey, just on a lighter note, Vindhya, so innovation is so aligned to a topic of IP, and when it comes to IP, so nobody's idea can be punished, and nobody's idea can be merged. People have right to their ideas and all the IP that goes with it. So anyway,
Of
Thank
course,
you
of
so
course.
much.
Yes, when it comes to that, absolutely. I'm talking about, not IP ideas, of course. But I'm talking more in terms of general innovation at the workplace on a daily basis. But yeah, that is a good point for sure.
Hey, thank you so much, and really appreciate. I think people have started dropping off already. Really enjoyed your session, Vindhya, and there's so much to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Renu, for this opportunity, and thank you everyone for attending. I hope you all had something to take away from this, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.